Thank you so much, Tim, for setting me up so well. So why don't I just kick us off? I am January Montano. I'm with January's advisory group. I'll give you a 20 seconds since we don't have time. Background on me. I have 27 years of experience in healthcare, which I think anyone that has been around healthcare knows that you end up doing everything, right? So a little bit of all of that, and that is the shortest version of me. So that said, what this session is bias in AI, what that means for your businesses and your bottom line. You can hear, you've heard about all the tools, you've heard about what you can do, all of the developments that are happening. It seems like really it's just playtime for adults across the board. What tool do you want to use to cut out potentially 4 to 8 hours of your day, like of your work time that does not need to be set in administrative tasks? Now, that is tremendous work. But that's not the work that we're going to do here for the next 15 type minutes in that. First, essentially, what I want to clarify when I say AI or artificial intelligence, I also mean machine learning, automation, those automated processes, those lean processes that don't have generated AI or technically that don't generate a response for you. Those are truly where the biases in racial and gender equity live. And it's not technically tech's fault. Tech will do whatever you tell tech to do sometimes.
Yeah.
Working on it.
No offense to our AV guys. Thankfully, I did use an AI generator for the PowerPoint, so I didn't kill myself on the presentation either. It was a few hours saved. So what we're going to go through just quickly today, I'm going to build our business understanding on racial and gender equity that is, or inequities that you'll find in AI in your automated systems, as I said, machine learning. We're going to go over the business impact, essentially that hidden 20 to 30% in revenue, affordability, and productivity that's hidden in your automated systems. It's essentially automated institutional racism that happened in 1998. It was an unintended consequence of Y2K, but we'll get into all of that and where all of this research came from. Please know that everything that I'm about to tell you is not only grounded in my research, but I also spent the last week in Chicago at the Databricks International AI Conference talking to data engineers, data scientists, running all of my assumptions and my non-tech brain behind them. I do have a master's in public health and regulatory leadership for the BU, but that is not a tech, any type of tech degree. So I wanted to make sure I bounced all of my assumptions off. I asked all of my dumb questions, and it turns out that the research is as solid as I believe, or as I found. So with that, we'll go into the lawsuits and liability that is coming out as a result of businesses using generative AI that does have racism, sexism embedded in it. That is common knowledge at this point. We've been looking at that for 4 years as across sectors in the industry. I think let's just kick in. I was going to go through our timed agenda, but no problem. With about 11 minutes left to go. I would just say, I'm going to pause for a second and point out that we have generative AI, we have tools, we have all of these things, but we still need humans to run them and connect them.
Oh!
Hey!
Okay.
That was pretty good. It's like, you're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
And you can go into present mode and whatever.
I'll pay you guys after this.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we can record. Okay, awesome. Okay, fantastic.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Enjoy, everyone.
Seriously, I got the 3 people. Ta-da! So let's start off with Nice to meet everybody. Let's start off with where it is, where that bias is. So right now, 61% of Americans don't know that AI is being used in hiring processes, and about 55% of HR leaders use predictive algorithms in hiring processes. So if half the population doesn't know that it's being used and half of businesses are using it, and nearly 100% of Fortune 500 companies are using it, imagine what that is doing for social inequities. This is Pew Research and PR Newswire, by the way. So to give you concrete examples, like what does this actually mean? Let's start with home mortgages and the world of algorithms, generative AI, what it can pull from. So for the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act essentially comes out with 2 reports. It's about 16 million lines a report. I did not go through all of it, but I did dig through it state by state, which essentially is what the University of Northern Carolina did as well. And we'll go into those figures in a moment, but to dig into the data for just a moment. So, because this is imperative to the rest of our conversation. The Home Mortgage Disclosure Act, healthcare, most of our federal regulations are set on 5 races, right? Black, white, AIAN, Asian, other. There's a separate report that has ethnicity. The data is terrible. You have some right unknown. You have 2 or more races. You have a whole mixed bag of people. Algorithms are only taught or told to check for these 5 things, and other is its own separate bucket. So what happened is Boston essentially started it. In 1990, a Boston federal paper found that Black people were getting, or Black Americans were getting denied home mortgages at a rate of 15%, white Americans at a rate of 6%. If you look at the University of North Carolina's data for minority races, for 2 or more minority races, it's 39%. In other states, it's 49%. I am Mountain Ute, Navajo, Apache, French, Irish, Spanish, Mexican. My great-great-grandfather, Federico Salazar, was buried in 1720 next to my grandmother, Isabella O'Connor. We have been melting for 400 years. We're not in the data. And if you're not in the data, you're not in the algorithms. If you're not in the algorithms, you are going to get denied. And this is just a snapshot of this because this is 2019. In 1998, it was assumed that BIPOC citizens we just don't pay our bills. It wasn't based on any evidence. What reporting or research was done didn't consider predatory loans. It didn't consider the 27% APR that was happening in redlining districts. It didn't consider anything. But because, and I'm, nothing against Senator Bennett or any of the other senators that called for Y2K compliance in 1998, we were facing a technical pandemic. We did not know what was going to happen in a year. So we needed to be ready. Tech did what it had to do. It automated our processes. It corrected those 010001s, but it did not think of the universe of inclusion. Because if there's one thing about algorithms, is that they are built for efficiency, not inclusivity. It is not their job. They're not told to do these things. And if they're not told to do these things, then they're going to cut out 20 to 30% of the population, i.e. me. So that said, the Brookings Institute, and all of these will be linked together. I won't read the slides to you, but essentially what I want to take you away from this is that these predictive models are not as predictive as they claim, right? They can do only so much, that 50% of the work, and then we have to take it the other 50% while the tech industries are developing. I think we've all heard AI can hallucinate. It can want to answer questions when it doesn't know the answer. How many humans have wanted to say the answer when we don't know what it is? How many people chime in at the end of Zoom calls that they're not they're not talking about anything, but they want to be a part of the conversation. See, generative AI wants to be a part of the conversation because that's human nature. Bottom line, right? What does this actually mean for small businesses? What does this mean for businesses in Colorado? So, full disclosure, Cole's Auto Sales does not know that I've used their photo, but I did speak with the owner, and he is comfortable with giving me giving this example because I had the opportunity. Like I said, I did my due diligence. I also spoke with small businesses at, say, Colorado Startup Happy Hour. It was not that painful to do. So essentially, like I said, the algorithms are built for efficiency, not inclusivity. And when it comes to small businesses, we really don't have a choice. We buy the pre-made software from Salesforce, Google, whatever those components from big tech are off the shelf, right? We don't have transparency into their algorithms. And if we did, how many of us would be able to decode and identify the prompts and the edit audits and the dev op station that need to be fixed in order to do that? We don't have time, right? But essentially, that automated institutional racism, that is where it lives. It's in those tiny, unintended. We didn't mean to do it, but we did. So the example of the car lot and Jane Smith. So Jane Smith, and I talked to the owner about this example because that was essentially his comment. I can't do anything about that. I go into Salesforce, I type in, whoever's information that comes in and asks me for a car, and it spits out a number for a pre-approval, denial, or a high APR and a high monthly payment. So I said, okay. I did some research into the Brookings Institute. There's several pieces of research going into this slide that you guys will get at the end. So Jane Smith on paper. Jane Smith goes to the car lot. She wants to buy a car. She's got, say, $2,000 down. On paper, Jane Smith is white, right? She's got great credit. She never missed a payment. She looks great. The owner takes her information, goes into his preloaded software, types all her information, hits enter, waits for it to load, and it spits out an APR. But with AI or machine learning, those generative processes, it pulls from the entirety of the universe of available data. So maybe Jane Smith watches BET, or maybe Jane Smith has a subscription to Black Hair magazine, or maybe she identified as Black on a 2020 census. Generative AI, or the machine learning, now knows this. The algorithm pulls from that, identifies her as Black, and because those automated discrimination, that racism is there, it will kick her up to the highest percentage rate. Now, this isn't my research. This is Brookings 2020. So when we think about adding these things to the Department of Corrections, to all of these major systems, it does have an impact because right now he's out a car sale. Because say she gets denied, say the car payment is $700 a month, that she can't pay that, or it's just a ridiculous percentage rate. He's out, our local Colorado Auto is out of sale, she's out of car. Now, I've been without a car in Denver. I love our train systems. We're not quite there yet. It is too hard. You cannot get promoted. You cannot get advanced while you're trying to take the bus and the train and do all of these other things with your life. Lawsuits and liability. What is happening? Essentially, tech accessibility is the first piece of it, or as far as the lawsuits that are coming down the pike. I'd say Cigna is a perfect example of what has happened. So essentially, and Cigna is claiming this is not generative AI, this is just their standard automated process. They automated approvals and denials and ended up denying 300,000 people without even looking at their prior authorization, their coverage, or their benefit. No doctor looked at the prior authorization request in the system, and of those cases that were open, the average time open was 1.4 seconds. Those people are still in litigation. A lot of them didn't get their surgeries covered, their prescriptions covered. There are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in claims in question right now. And Cigna's response is that their PXDX system is not to blame. It doesn't add discrimination.
I just want to give a time check that we technically are at time.
Oh,
I don't think it's kind of a funky timing of that. So I don't know. If folks need to go to another session, just want to call time, and I think it's probably a couple more. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Why don't we do this, since you guys are getting all of this? I was going to tell you what is being done right now. I'll just highlight from this slide that Lori Price is local to Denver, and she is what I would call my real estate counterpart. I figured this piece out for health tech and finance, and she has figured out how to tie revenue into equity for businesses for real estate. And then I will end us on 3 things that you guys can actually do. Since you're buying these preloaded software off the market, I'd say number 1, software works as it is designed or contracted to be built. It is not built generally as intended, and that's how we ended up here. So the first thing is to be aware that if you are using Salesforce or something, not Salesforce, because I cannot definitively say these are the exact algorithms. We don't have that access there. But I would say to just be aware that 20-30% of your business may be impacted by this because I'm not there. And I'm important. The second thing is to react and read. Make sure that you guys are staying as up to date as you can. But the second thing is, I'd say Montana. This is the playbook. I personally have gone through, torn it up. It's the AI first company, how to compete and win with artificial intelligence. This is not how to build algorithms. It's not any of those pieces. It's how to build teams that are data scientists, data engineers, what you need them for, what type of managers they work best with, and what products or problems they might be able to help you with, so that you don't hire an entire AI team, but maybe you just need a business analyst that has that AI component. The second thing I would say that's not on here is Catherine Finney. This is for anybody who is maybe thinking about starting a business. This is Build the Damn Thing. How to start a successful business if you're not a rich white guy. No offense to any rich white guys in the place. I'm only on chapter 3. Love it. Number 3 is to, and this is the most important thing, if I could leave you guys with anything, is to review your contracts with your vendors. Push back on big tech, push back on your vendors and say, what are you doing with social equity? How are you building this into algorithms? How is this software or whatever, portal that you're designing for me going to improve access? Because the reality is that small business can create a bunch of apps, but it's big tech that's passing this out. So I think that is time. Thank you. Thank you so much.